The movie begins with Peter Gibbons stuck in a traffic jam on his way to the office. Upon reaching the office, he becomes agitated by the loud noises coming from neighboring cubicles and his supervisor, Bill Lambert, who reminds him about the new policy of using cover sheets on reports as Peter forgot to use them. Peter assures Bill that he understands and has already taken care of it. However, his supervisor keeps sending him memos. Feeling overwhelmed, Peter asks his two friends, Samir and Michael, for coffee at the cafe, where he expresses his dissatisfaction with working at a software company. In response, Michael jokingly suggests creating a virus to destroy the company if they're not treated better. As they chat, Peter notices a waitress named Joanna, and his friends encourage him to ask her out. However, Peter explains that he's trying to salvage his relationship with his overly critical girlfriend, Anne, who believes attending an occupational hypnotherapy session could solve their issues. Amid their conversation, Michael inquires about Peter's cover page issue, which causes Peter to sigh in annoyance. Leaving the coffee shop, they encounter a co-worker named Tom Smykowski rushing towards them with news of an upcoming layoff in the staff meeting. Peter and his friends dismiss Tom's concern as he frequently fears losing his job. Tom suggests that coming up with a unique idea, like the invention of the pet rock, could make them millionaires and free them from work. He recalls his absurd idea of a rug with written conclusions for people to jump to, and Michael labels it as the worst idea ever. The group then delves into a discussion about ideas to make $1 million. After returning home, Peter is joined by his neighbor, Lawrence, and Peter confides in him about his suspicions that Anne might be cheating on him. While getting a beer, Peter mentions that he can't go fishing on Saturday as he might be called into work. Lawrence advises him to avoid his boss during the final hours on Friday to prevent his boss from asking him to come in. Impressed by the idea, Peter muses that if he had $1 million, he would simply do nothing and relax all day. Lawrence counters by saying that being a millionaire isn't necessary to do nothing, citing his broke cousin as an example. On Friday, it's 4:45 p.m., and Peter begins avoiding Bill by trying to save his files quickly so he can leave. But just as he finishes, Bill arrives at his cubicle and informs him that Peter needs to work the whole weekend due to a heavy workload. In the evening, Peter, along with Anne, goes to the hypnotherapist, Dr. Swanson, explaining how each day feels worse than the last. Dr. Swanson hypnotizes Peter, instructing him to relax and stop caring about his job until he snaps his fingers. However, unexpectedly, Dr. Swanson suffers a fatal heart attack and dies before completing the session. As a result of the unfinished hypnosis, Peter spends the next day in a deep, undisturbed sleep. He ignores calls from Bill and Anne, and eventually, Anne angrily breaks up with Peter after confirming his suspicions of her cheating. On Monday, Peter skips work, meets Joanna at a cafe, and invites her to have lunch with him. Joanna explains she can't join customers at her workplace, so Peter suggests he will be in the restaurant nearby waiting for her. If she doesn't show up, he won't mind it. To his joy, Joanna arrives, which sparks the start of their relationship. In the company, two consultants are brought in to downsize the company and start interviewing employees. When Peter arrives at work after days, Michael questions his presence, and Peter explains that he did nothing over the weekend and had a great time. He's only there to pick up his phone book and has no intention of working. Michael informs him that it's his turn for an interview with the consultant, suggesting he postpone it. However, Peter insists on going in, claiming it's the best day of his life. During the interview, the consultants ask Peter to describe a typical day. He candidly shares that he arrives late, spends around 15 minutes on actual work per week, and pretends to be busy the rest of the time. He points out the lack of incentives and having 8 bosses who all approach him for mistakes. Bill attempts to talk to him as he leaves the office, but Peter ignores him completely. At the restaurant where Joanna works, her boss insists she wears more buttons as part of the unique flair of the establishment. Despite her dislike for it, Joanna agrees due to her lack of choice. Surprisingly, the consultants recommend promoting Peter to administration, and even though Bill disagrees, they convince him. The next week, Peter arrives at work and boldly breaks office protocol by taking Lumberg's parking space, ignoring the dress code and removing a cubicle wall, blocking his view to introduce change into his routine every day. Meanwhile, his relationship with Joanna flourishes as they enjoy various dates together. The consultants tell Peter that Samir and Michael will be fired while he will be promoted. They also fired Milton, who'd been laid off 5 years ago and was unaware of this decision as the information wasn't conveyed to him or the accountant. Now only the accountant is informed, and Milton continues to work despite his pay getting stopped. That night, Peter rushes to Michael's house and inquires about the virus that could bring down the company. Michael explains that the virus exploits the rounding off of small fractions of a penny in transactions, redirecting those fractions into another account. He references its use in the movie Superman. Given Anitex's outdated software updates, Michael believes the company will never detect the virus, and the fractions accumulated from transactions could yield a significant amount of money. Taking Michael to a pub, Peter discloses that he and Samir are being fired. He delivers a passionate speech about the mundane nature of cubicle jobs and the need to break free from this cycle. He proposes a plan to manipulate the company's stocks and acquire enough money to escape the cubicle lifestyle forever. Michael expresses concern about not knowing the bank account credentials, but Peter reveals that Samir does. Despite initial resistance, Samir eventually agrees to join the plan after Peter convinces him that finding another job will only lead to repeating the same cycle. Michael outlines the plan. Samir will provide Michael with the necessary bank account credentials the next day. Michael will take care of the technical aspects and install the virus, and Peter will download it to his new computer, utilizing his upcoming promotion to access the company network. As they conclude their conversation, they promise this will remain a secret among them. The next day unfolds smoothly as they flawlessly execute their plan. Another co-worker shares a concerning incident involving Tom, who initially attempted to end his life by running his car in the garage due to the impending layoff. However, upon seeing his wife, he changed his mind, and while reversing the car, a truck struck him, resulting in severe injuries. Surprisingly, Tom received a substantial settlement, amounting to 7 figures. In celebration of this turn of events, Tom will throw a party and invite everyone for the upcoming weekend. As their final day at Anitec arrives, Peter, Samir, and Michael seize a frequently malfunctioning printer and take it to a field where they demolish it brutally. The following weekend, Peter and Joanna drive to Tom's party. Peter confides in Joanna about the virus plan they executed. However, Joanna accuses Peter of theft, expressing her disapproval of the plan. At the party, Peter's co-worker tells him to be careful around Joanna, hinting she has been intimate with Lumberg. This revelation deeply hurts Peter, and a heated argument ensues between him and Joanna on their way home. Despite Joanna clarifying that the incident was 2 years ago, their trust is severely damaged. Adding to Joanna's troubles, she faces yet another reprimand for not wearing enough badges at work, and she quits her job angrily. On Monday, Peter realizes that a coding error made by Michael has led the virus to collect $300,000 over the weekend. This discovery guarantees their scheme will be exposed, and they fear jail. Michael attributes the mishap to a decimal point being placed incorrectly. Meanwhile, Milton's mistreatment continues as he's relegated to the storage room and forced to work without pay. After considering laundering the stolen money, Peter, Samir, and Michael realize they are bad at criminal activities. Samir labels Peter a bad human for involving him in this, and that night Peter dreams of being sent to prison by a judge. Haunted by the idea, he decides to take responsibility. Peter writes a confession letter, reflecting on his actions. He also discovers that the co-worker Joanna had slept with was not Lumberg, but someone else. Peter seeks her out, apologizes, and they mend their relationship. At Anitec, after hours, Peter slips the confession letter along with checks for the embezzled money under Lumbergh's office door. The following day, he arrives at the company, prepared to face arrest, only to find the building engulfed in flames, destroying all evidence against him. Peter embraces a new career as a construction worker. Samir and Michael secure jobs at Initech's rival, Initra, and offer Peter a job there, which he declines as he is content with his new job. It's revealed that the stolen money was taken by Milton, who set fire to the whole place before heading to Mexico on a trip. Office Space, released in 1999, directed by Mike Judge, produced on a budget of approximately $10 million. Mike Judge, the director and writer, based the movie on his own experiences as an engineer in Silicon Valley in the 1980s. Office Space is often cited as a spot-on portrayal of corporate culture and the desire to break free from its confines. It remains beloved by many who see their own work experiences reflected in its humor. Please subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next recap.